I am Sergeant Griggs of the Adeptus Astartes, and this is how we saved a world that was already dead. The sky above Halcyon burned. Not with fire. No. Fire was clean. Fire was honest. This was something else. The heavens churned like a wounded beast, bruised purple and sickly green, split open by streaks of biolightning as the swarm descended. The Tyranids had come in numbers that defied reason. They always did. Contact front. Brother Kyle's voice cut through the vox, sharp and controlled. Range, 50 meters and closing fast. I didn't answer him. I didn't need to. I could already hear them. The chittering, the wet, clicking chorus of alien hunger. It crawled under ceramite and bone alike, a sound that no man, no matter how augmented, could ever truly ignore. I raised my bolter. "Hold the line," I said. Simple words. They always were. The first wave hit like a tidal surge of flesh. Termagants poured through the shattered hab blocks, their bodies low and fast, living weapons grafted into their limbs. Behind them, the larger shapes moved. Warriors, towering, blade-limbed horrors directing the swarm with cold, alien precision. Fire! The world became thunder. Bolters roared in unison, each round a miniature detonation. Flesh burst, limbs tore free. The front ranks of the swarm collapsed into ruin. And kept coming. They always kept coming. Brother Halvek laughed over the vox, a deep, savage sound. "Is this all?" He barked, his heavy bolter chewing through the tide. I have seen worse in training cages. "Less boasting," I snapped. "More killing." "Same thing, Sergeant!" A warrior beast vaulted the wreckage ahead, its scything talons carving through the air. I stepped forward to meet it. The first strike glanced off my pauldron. The second I caught. My chainsword roared to life. We met in a spray of ichor and sparks. Its strength was immense, unnatural, but I had faced worse. I drove the blade upward, tearing through chitin, splitting its torso open in a wet explosion of alien matter. It collapsed at my feet. "Line holding," Kale reported, but their reinforcing left flank. I risked a glance. He was right. More of them were pouring in from the ruins. Too many. Always too many. "Second squad, pivot left," I ordered. "Interlocking fields of fire, do not let them through." Acknowledgements crackled back. We shifted as one. That was what we were trained for. What we were made for. We were the Emperor's will given form. And still, it wasn't enough. The swarm adapted. It always adapted. The next wave was different. Larger. Faster. Hormagaunts leapt the barricades, closing distance in seconds. One slammed into Brother Tyrus, knocking him from his feet. Claws hammered against his chestplate, searching for weakness. "Tyrus!" I moved. Too slow. Its talon found the gap beneath his gorget. There was a wet, final sound. Tyrus went still. I emptied half a magazine into the creature, reducing it to ruin. But it didn't matter. Nothing ever mattered fast enough. "Maintain formation," I roared. "Do not break." But the line faltered, just for a second. That was all the swarm needed. They poured through the gap. Close quarters now. Chainswords. Combat blades. Bolt pistols fired point blank. Brother Cale fought like a machine beside me, his movements precise, efficient. Every strike killed. Every shot found its mark. Still, they came. I saw Halvek dragged down beneath a mass of bodies, still firing even as they climbed over him. "Sergeant," Kyle said, quieter now, "we cannot hold this." I knew. We all knew. But we didn't say it. Because saying it made it real. Then the sky changed. Again. A sound rolled across the battlefield. Not tyrannid, not human. Something deeper. Something that pressed against the mind like a physical weight. The swarm hesitated. Just for a moment. Every creature stilled. Every claw froze mid-strike. I felt it too, a pressure, a presence. Watching, waiting, and then they withdrew. Not routed, not broken, withdrawn. The Tyranids pulled back as one, retreating into the ruins, vanishing into shadow and smoke as if called by some unseen command. Silence fell. Sudden. Absolute. No one spoke for several seconds. Then, "Sergeant?" Kyle's voice was uncertain now. I had never heard that from him before. I scanned the battlefield. Bodies everywhere. Ours. Theirs. The city reduced to a graveyard of broken stone and shattered flesh. "They're gone," someone said over the Vox. "No," I replied. I didn't know how I knew, but I knew. "They're not gone." Halvek stirred. I turned toward him instinctively. He lay half buried beneath the dead, his armor cracked, his heavy bolter silent at his side. For a moment I thought, number. I knew what I had seen. He had fallen. I had watched it. "Halvek?" I stepped closer. No response. Static hissed softly in my helm. The air felt wrong, heavy, charged. That was when the fog began to roll in. Dark. Not like smoke, not like mist. Something thicker, something alive. It crept across the battlefield, coiling through ruins and over corpses, crackling faintly with arcs of violet energy. The Vox screamed, static, violent, overwhelming. "Zist, Sergeant, zist, something's..." Cale's voice dissolved into noise. I reached for Halvek, and then he moved, not a twitch, not a reflex, a deliberate motion. His hand clenched, slowly, mechanically. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to act, to fire, to strike, to do something, but I didn't. Because this was wrong. Because this was impossible. "Halvek," I said again. His helm turned, too smoothly, too precisely. "Sergeant!" The voice that came from his Vox was broken, distorted, like something trying to remember how to speak. Behind me. More movement, bodies shifting, armor scraping against stone. I didn't need to turn to know, but I did anyway. They were rising. Brother Tyrus, Brother Elion, dozens of them. Marines who had fallen minutes ago, now standing. Cale's voice cut through the static, sharp with something I had never heard from him before. Sergeant, a pause. Then quietly, we did not win. The fog thickened. The dead took a step forward. And I raised my bolter. The first shot I fired took Brother Tyrus in the chest. The bolt detonated on impact, blowing out the front of his armor in a burst of ceramite and meat. The force drove him back a step. And then he steadied, still standing, still facing me. Contact confirmed, Keitel said, his voice low, controlled, too controlled. Targets are not terminating. I can see that. I adjusted my grip on the bolter, sighting center mass again. Headshots, I ordered. Aim for the head, joints if you have to. It felt wrong even saying it. It felt worse knowing it might not be enough. The fog crawled thicker around us, swallowing the battlefield in slow-moving tides of black-violet haze. It clung to armor, slithered along the ground, coiled around the fallen. And the not-so-fallen. Tyrus took another step forward. His helmet was cracked, visor shattered. I could see what remained of his face inside. Eyes open, unblinking. Watching me. Sergeant. His voice came through the Vox. Clearer now, less distorted, almost normal. That was worse. I fired again. The round struck his helm and detonated. His head snapped back violently, armor splitting, bone fragmenting. He collapsed. This time, he stayed down. Confirmed, Kyle said. Cranial destruction effective. Then don't hesitate, I snapped. You hesitate, you die. A beat. Yes, Sergeant. Behind Tyrus, more of them advanced, not charging, not rushing, walking. Slow, deliberate, like they had all the time in the galaxy. Why aren't they running? One of the newer brothers asked over the Vox. I didn't even know which one. His voice was tight, fracturing. They don't need to, Kyle answered before I could. We're not retreating. I almost told him to correct that. Almost. Form on me, I ordered. Tight formation. We fall back to the secondary line. Fall back? Another voice, sharp, disbelieving. We are not equipped for this engagement, I said. We adapt or we die, move. We began to withdraw, step by step, measured, disciplined, the way we were trained. And they followed. Bolter fire echoed through the fog, each shot precise, controlled. Heads burst, limbs shattered, bodies dropped. And sometimes got back up. Not all of them, but enough. Sergeant, Kyle said, there is a pattern. Speak. Those more recently fallen are slower to rise, less stable. I processed that instantly. Time since death correlates with reanimation efficiency? Yes. Then this isn't random. No, Sergeant. A pause. This is deliberate. Of course it was. Nothing in this galaxy was ever random. The fog surged, not physically, but I felt it, like a pulse, like something breathing. The air crackled, tiny arcs of violet energy dancing across my gauntlet. My autosenses flickered, struggling to compensate. "Vox interference increasing," Kale reported. "Switch to tight band." "Attempting," static answered him. And then, a voice. "Sergeant Griggs." It didn't come through the Vox. It came from everywhere. I turned sharply. "Identify." No response, only the dead advancing. "Sergeant." This time it came from ahead. From one of them. Brother Halvek stepped forward through the fog. He was ruined. His armor was torn open across the torso, one arm hanging at an unnatural angle. The heavy bolter was gone, lost somewhere in the carnage. But he stood, straight, proud, and he looked at me. "Sergeant Griggs," he said again. No distortion, no static, just his voice. "Halvek," I said. I didn't raise my weapon. I should have. I knew I should have. He took another step closer. "You left the line," he said. The words hit harder than any blade. "I ordered a withdrawal," I replied. "You broke," he said. "I adapted. You fled. I survived." Behind me, I could feel the others watching, waiting. No one fired, no one moved. Halvek tilted his head slightly. A familiar gesture. One I had seen 100 times before. "You always said," he continued, "that we do not retreat." "I said we do not fail." "You failed us." Something shifted in the fog, not movement. Awareness. "Halvek," I said carefully, "you are dead." A pause. Then, "No," he said. "I remember dying." The words settled like a weight in my chest. "I remember the claws," he continued. "The pressure, the pain." He took another step. "I remember you watching." I tightened my grip on the bolter. "That is not you." His head tilted again, more sharply this time. Less human. "Then why," he asked, "do I remember everything?" Behind him, more of the dead gathered. Not rushing, not attacking, watching. Kale's voice cut in, low and urgent. "Sergeant, this is a delay tactic." "I know." "Permission to engage." I didn't answer immediately, because I was looking at Halvek. At the way he stood, at the way he spoke, at the way he remembered. "Sergeant," Kale pressed. I raised my bolter. Halvek didn't move, didn't flinch. "If you are my brother," I said, "then you will understand." He smiled, or tried to. The expression broke halfway across his ruined face. "I always understood," he said. I fired. The bolt took him clean through the helm. Detonation, fragmentation, silence. He fell and did not rise. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the fog pulsed. hard, violent, and everything changed. The dead surged forward. Not slow now, not deliberate, fast, hungry. Engage, I roared. Bolters thundered. Chainswords ignited. The line dissolved into chaos. They came in waves. Endless, relentless. Every fallen brother now an enemy. Every familiar silhouette a threat. One of them slammed into me from the side, driving me to one knee. I twisted, bringing the chainsword up in a roaring arc that tore through its midsection. It didn't stop. Its hands closed around my throat. Griggs. I looked up. Brother Halcyon, half his face gone. Still speaking. I drove the blade through his skull. He went limp. I shoved him aside and rose, firing into the mass, each shot another betrayal, another necessity. "Fall back," I shouted. "Fall back to the ridge." We were losing, not because they were stronger, not because they were faster, because we hesitated, because every target was a memory. Kale fought his way to my side, armor scored, movement still precise, but tighter now, less mechanical, more human. "Casualties mounting," he said. "Ammunition at 40%. We hold until we break contact. At this rate, we will not break contact." I knew. The fog thickened again, swallowing the battlefield whole. Shapes moved within it. Too many. Far too many. And beneath it all, I felt it again. That presence, watching, learning. "Sergeant," Kale said. I didn't look at him. "What? There are more of them." I followed his gaze. Through the fog, through the shifting silhouettes. The ground itself was moving. Bodies. Hundreds, thousands, rising. "Of course there are," I said. My grip tightened on the bolter. My voice hardened. "Then we kill them again." We did not break contact. Contact broke us. The ridge was never meant to hold. It was a line on a map, a suggestion. A fallback point drawn by someone far removed from the reality of chitin and blood and screaming vox channels. But it was all we had, so we took it. "Set firing arcs," I barked. "Overlapping fields. No gaps, no gaps." Acknowledgements came back, fewer now, too few. We formed up along the shattered ridgeline, broken stone and twisted ferrocrete giving us elevation over the battlefield below. If you could still call it that, it wasn't a battlefield anymore. It was a graveyard that refused to stay buried. They came through the fog in waves. Not just our dead, not just Astartes. Guardsmen, civilians, things that had once been human, now twisted into something hollow and wrong. And beneath them, movement, deeper, heavier. "Tyranid signatures returning," Kyle reported. "Of course they were." "Of course they are," I echoed. "Because why wouldn't they be? This galaxy didn't deal in mercy. Only escalation. The first wave hit the ridge. We met it with everything we had. Bolters roared, turning the front ranks into ruin. But the momentum carried the rest forward. They climbed over their own dead, clawing, grasping, reaching. Not screaming, not raging. Just coming. "Left flank buckling," someone shouted. "I have it." Kyle moved before I could respond, stepping into the breach with brutal efficiency. Bolt rounds punched through skulls with surgical precision, each shot placed, each kill immediate. Still they came. A guardsman corpse reached the top of the ridge and lunged at me, its uniform torn, face slack and lifeless. I crushed its skull with the butt of my bolter. Another took its place. Then another. "Sergeant!" I turned. Brother Varn was on one knee, wrestling with a fallen Astartes, one of ours. The thing's gauntlet had locked around his arm, servos whining as it tried to crush through ceramite. "I've got you," I said, stepping in. The creature turned its head toward me. Its helm was gone. I knew that face. "Brother?" Varn hesitated, just for a second. That was enough. The thing's other hand snapped up, driving a broken combat blade into the gap beneath his arm. Varn jerked, went still. I fired, once, twice. The corpse collapsed. I stood there for half a second longer than I should have, looking at Varn, at the way he slumped, at the way his grip slowly loosened on his weapon. "Sergeant!" Kale's voice snapped me back. "We are being overrun." "I see it." The ridge was failing, not in one place, everywhere. And then, the ground split. A massive shape erupted from beneath the dead, hurling bodies aside as it rose. A tyrannid monstrosity, its chitin plated like armor, its claws the size of a man. "Carnifex!" someone shouted. "Focus fire!" I roared. Every bolter turned. Rounds slammed into its hide, detonating in bursts of fire and shrapnel. It staggered and kept coming. "Kraken rounds," Kale called. We switched as one. This time the impacts bit deeper. Chitin cracked, flesh tore. The beast roared, a sound that shook the bones. And then the dead reached it. They didn't attack it. They climbed it. Clawed hands grasped at its limbs, its torso, its head. Bodies piled onto it, dragging it down, slowing its advance. For a moment, I thought. Then it began to tear them apart. Limbs ripped free, bodies crushed, jaws snapping, claws carving through the mass. It didn't distinguish, didn't hesitate. "Sergeant," Kyle said, "I know. They weren't allies. They weren't enemies. They were just part of it." The realization settled like ice in my veins. "This isn't two forces," I said. "No," Kyle replied. "This is one." The fog pulsed, harder than before, and I felt it again, that presence. Closer now, watching us, learning. "Sergeant," Kale said quietly, "we are not the target." I understood immediately. "We're the test," I said, and we were failing. "Fall back," I ordered. "Full withdrawal, we cannot hold this position." This time, no one questioned it. We broke, not in panic, not in fear, in necessity. We fell back down the far side of the ridge, firing as we moved, buying seconds with every shot. Seconds we couldn't afford. Behind us, the ridge vanished beneath a tide of bodies. "How many left?" I asked. Kyle didn't answer immediately. "5, he said. 5, from a full squad. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. We reached the ruins of a collapsed hab structure and took position inside, forming a tight defensive circle. "They'll be on us in seconds," Kale said. "I know." I checked my ammo. Low. Too low. "Sergeant." It was one of the others, younger, voice shaking. "What are we fighting?" I looked at him, at the fear in his eyes, at the way his hands trembled despite the armor. I thought about lying, about saying something clean, simple, reassuring. Instead, I told the truth. "Everything," I said. The first of them reached the structure. "Engage!" We opened fire. This time, there was no line, no formation, no strategy beyond survival. They came through the walls, through the openings, over the rubble. One got through, then two, then more. Close quarters again, brutal. Personal. Kale moved like a machine beside me, his blade carving precise arcs through the press of bodies. Still perfect, still controlled. Until he wasn't. One of them broke through his guard, fast, too fast. It slammed into him, driving him back. I turned and saw its face. Halvek, again. No, not again. Something else wearing him. Kyle, I fired. Too late. Halvek's hand drove into the joint beneath Kyle's pauldron. Kale froze. For a fraction of a second, everything stopped. Then, Kale moved, not away, forward. He grabbed Halvek, held him in place. "Sergeant," he said, calm, steady. "Now." I didn't hesitate. I fired. The bolt took them both. They fell together. I didn't look again, because if I did, I wouldn't be able to keep fighting. And we weren't done. We were never done. The fog surged one last time. Violent, consuming, and in that moment, the Vox cleared. Clean, perfect. A voice came through. Cold, authoritative, unquestionable. This is command authority of the Imperium of Man. I froze. Planetary status has been reassessed. Around me, the last of my brothers fought and died. Containment has failed. I knew what was coming. I think I always did. Exterminatus authorization granted. The words landed heavier than any weapon. Final confirmation. All remaining Imperial forces are to hold position. Hold, not retreat, not extract. Hold. I looked around. At the dead, at the dying, at what remained. And I understood. We hadn't been fighting to save the planet. We had been fighting to delay its death. "Sergeant!" The last surviving brother looked at me. Waiting for an order. I raised my bolter. "Hold the line," I said. The sky above Halcyon began to burn. The sky split open. At first, it was just light. A thin line across the heavens, cutting through the sickly greens and bruised purples left behind by the swarm. Clean, white, pure. For a moment, just a moment, it looked like salvation. Then it widened. "Orbital lance batteries," I said. No one answered. No one needed to. The first beam struck the horizon. There was no explosion, no fireball, just absence. A line of the world erased in an instant, everything in its path reduced to nothing. Stone, flesh, chitin, bone, gone as if it had never existed. The shockwave followed a heartbeat later. It hit like a god's fist. The ground buckled beneath us, throwing bodies, living and dead alike, into the air. The ruins around us shattered further, collapsing inward as dust and debris filled the air. "Hold!" I roared, forcing myself upright. The dead did not falter. They kept coming. Through the dust, through the ruin. Unaffected. Of course they were. "Second strike incoming," I said. Because I could see it. Because once you understood what was happening, you could always see the next blow coming. The light returned, brighter, closer. "Sergeant," the last brother, Aaron, I remembered now, stood beside me, his armor cracked, his weapon nearly dry. "What do we do?" I looked at him, at the fear he was trying and failing to hide, at the way he still waited for direction, for purpose. "We do what we were made to do," I said. The beam fell. This time, it hit the outskirts of the city, closer, too close. The world screamed. Buildings vaporized. The ground turned to glass. Everything caught in the strike simply ceased to be. And still, the dead came. Why aren't they stopping? Aaron whispered. Because this wasn't about stopping them. It never was. This isn't for them, I said. Understanding dawned in his eyes. Horror. Clarity. This is for us, he said. Yes. The third strike began to form. Closer still. The fog surged wildly now, writhing like a living thing caught in agony. Arcs of violet energy snapped through the air, striking armor, stone, flesh alike. The presence I had felt since the beginning. It was panicking. Good, let it. Sergeant, Aaron shouted. They're breaking through. They were. The last of them reached us. No more distance, no more space. Just blades and bodies and blood. I met them head-on. Chainsword roaring, I tore through the first, then the second, each strike brutal, final, necessary. A bolter round took another through the skull. Aaron fought beside me, desperate now, every movement a fraction too wide, a fraction too slow. One of them got through his guard. I saw it happen, saw the claw rise, saw the moment he realized. I fired. The bolt took him in the side. He staggered, turned, looked at me. I thank you, he said. Then the dead took him. I didn't look away this time. I watched, because someone had to remember. The fourth strike came down, close enough that I could feel it before it hit. The air ignited. Heat beyond anything natural washed over the battlefield, turning armor into a furnace, turning breath into fire. The ruins around me began to melt, and still, I stood. Alone now, completely alone. The dead closed in. Slow again, deliberate. Like they knew, like they understood. Sergeant Griggs. I turned. Halvek stood before me. Whole, unbroken, as he had been before the battle. Impossible. You did well, he said. I raised my bolter. You're not real. No, he agreed, a step closer. But I am what remains. The fog coiled around him, shaping him, holding him together. You fought for them, he said. For the living. Another step. They left you. I didn't respond, because there was nothing to say. He wasn't wrong. They always leave you, he continued. The sky above burned brighter. The final strike was coming, the one that would end it, end everything. You could stay, Halvek said. I almost laughed. Stay? I echoed. With us, he said. The dead gathered behind him, silent, waiting. No more orders, no more abandonment, no more endings. For a moment, just a moment, I felt it. The weight of everything, the loss, the futility, the endless war that never ended. The certainty that nothing we did would ever be enough. It would be so easy to stop, to let go, to become something that didn't have to feel any of it anymore. My grip tightened on the bolter. No, I said. Halvek tilted his head. Why? I looked past him, at the burning sky, at the coming end. Because it matters, I said. It doesn't, he replied. It does, I said, and I believed it. Even then, even now. The light above reached its peak. The world held its breath. I lowered my bolter, not in surrender, in acceptance. We held the line, I said. Halvek watched me, silent. Yes, he said. The sky fell. There was no pain, no sound, no time to think, only light. And then, nothing. Halcyon was declared lost. Exterminatus successful. Tyrannid presence eradicated. Contamination contained. No further action required. In the endless records of the imperium of man, it was a victory. Another world saved, another war won, another sacrifice justified. Sergeant Griggs was listed among the fallen, his actions noted, his service recorded, and then forgotten.